Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today on this Tuesday?
I'm doing good.
I'll fix that in a second.
Yeah, what's going on there?
It's
I've never seen that before.
face tracking you right now.
What's in my ears?
I'll fix that at some point along the show. But we got a lot to talk about today. We got some breaking news that we're going to cover immediately. So actually, let's just jump into that right now as I fix that. The New York Jets have made another significant change, which is they have fired their general manager, Joe Douglas. He's been the GM since 2019. Before that, he was the vice president of player personnel for the Philadelphia Eagles from 2016 to 2019. And before that, he was a scout for the Baltimore Ravens from 2000 to 2014. This is another major move after the Todd Downing replacing Nathaniel Hackett as play caller, then Jeff Ulbrich replacing Robert Saleh as the head coach. There's a lot of moves happening in New York, but I would like to know, are you surprised that the Jets would fire their GM at this point in the season?
Not particularly. I mean, given the way they're going now, they're 2-8. I mean, it's terrible. He's fired after what you mentioned it, 5+ seasons. His sterling record of 30-64, and no winning seasons and no playoff appearances. I think he was lucky to get this far. Very lucky to get this far. They're beginning a search for a new GM immediately, according to Woody Johnson. The Jets, they're 3-8, not 2-8, after blowing the lead to the Colts late in the game. Johnson called this his best roster he's had in 25 years of ownership. Was fuming apparently after the game. So this is a likely outcome. You got to take out the losing on somebody. Generally can't be the players, so it's got to be the either the leadership or the coaches. Douglas his contract was expiring this year anyway, so it's kind of interesting that they fired him right now. I mean, it would go through June of 2025. He didn't have a renewal. I think probably Johnson felt it would be better to do it now because it'd be awkward to conduct a search with him around as a lame duck still in the building. I think his fate was likely sealed when he wasn't included in the decision to fire Robert Saleh on October 8th. Johnson made it clear it was his call to fire Saleh, leaving Douglas in kind of a difficult situation. I think Douglas was likely retained. Most people would think you'd fire the GM and the head coach at the same time. He was retained, I think, probably to handle the Reddick issue and the trade deadline, which they handled both. They got Devontae Adams and they resolved the Reddick issue, but Johnson played a big role in those decisions. I think Douglas was probably hoping for a miracle turnaround here, but the opposite happened. They've lost 7 of 8 in what was considered a win-now season under Aaron Rodgers. I think it's doubtful that Rodgers will be back now. in 2025. He's having one of his worst statistical seasons. He's under contract for next year with a $23.5 million cap charge, but none of his salary is guaranteed. I think Douglas had a reputation coming in as a sterling talent evaluator. He built a roster with young stars, including Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, but had a huge miss when he drafted Zach Wilson, second in 2021, after deciding to move on from Sam Darnold, trading him to the Panthers. The quick fix then was to pick up Rodgers and surround him with a bunch of aging stars on short-term deals, Tyron Smith, Mike Williams, and now they brought in Devontae Adams. He helped to build a talented defense that's really regressed this year. It hasn't played all that well. It's not ranked highly anymore. I think that's largely because they fired Saleh. They were playing reasonably well on defense until they got rid of him. They failed to solidify the offensive line, even with all the changes they made this year. And the quarterback position. I mean, since 2019, the QBR has been 36, completions 59.6, and yards per attempt 6.3, all last in the NFL. It's the first time since 2015 the Jets are looking for both a QB, a general manager and a head coach. And at the end, Johnson may wind up going back to work for Trump. So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Is this surprising? Actually, a little bit, in my opinion, because why now? It's not like you want to get a quick GM in there for the trade deadline. It's not that you could, pick up a free agent now. They're all gone. Why now? Is it because you don't want Joe Douglas to make a get back decision at Woody Johnson for probably not going to re-sign him, and obviously at this point not going to re-sign him at all? He just got fired. What I find really interesting is that this lines up perfectly with what the Jets are, a dysfunctional franchise with no idea how to move forward. We had Sam Darnold, then you got Christian Hackenberg, you got Chris Straveller and Zach Wilson. You have these Geno Smith, the end of Mark Sanchez, all these quarterbacks. And Mark Sanchez actually might be the last good Jets quarterback, and that's actually a bit of a stretch to call him a good quarterback. He did make the AFC title game. That's full respect to you. But was he really the last good quarterback that the Jets have had? Well, then that's been over a decade since then. But this is perfect Jets. Fire a GM when it doesn't make a lot of sense to fire him. And a lot of people, at least the person I talked to today about it, says it's a bad take to say that Joe Douglas is not the primary problem. How is that a hot take? It's number 8 on your team, who, according to Rich Cimini, ESPN's Rich Cimini, sources tell him that he'd be shocked if Woody Johnson brings Aaron Rodgers back in 2025. So that being said, it looks like this will be Rodgers' last season with the New York Jets, which is the right thing to do, because he is in straight up terms, he is a cancer to the Jets culture. Whatever culture that they did have, Rodgers was not a big help to them, and I think, honestly, he killed any chance of there to be a culture. And you hear former quarterbacks like Boomer Esiason saying that the locker room is fractured, it's a complete mess. You hear players saying that they want to appease Rodgers, they don't want to make the wrong step, otherwise it's going to be a big issue. And even the media now has to bow down to Rodgers. You go up to Robert Saleh and he says, oh, well, you know what, that was an unexcused absence for him to take his wherever he went to. I think it was Egypt. And then Rodgers comes back and says, it's okay, we're all good. And the whole media thing is ridiculous. Rodgers then, saying how we need to embrace the darkness. We got to befriend the darkness and come out of it on top. He's the problem. He is the darkness on the Jets. For a organization that has never had an ounce of stability, maybe it's in its entirety. Maybe all the way back in Super Bowl III, there was a little bit of cohesion with them finally winning a Super Bowl, their only Super Bowl. Maybe then, but I can't remember a time in my lifetime. I'm 22 years old. I don't remember a single time where the Jets have had some sort of unity, where there hasn't been a complete mess, where the quarterback has been at least in the top 10, top 15 even. I can't remember it. And then also, on top of that, let's just add more fuel to the fire. Connor Hughes, SNY's Connor Hughes reports that players are, quote, just ready for the season to be over and have, quote, checked out. That's the perfect thing for the Jets. Of course they'd be checked out. I'd be checked out too. If I had all this hype in the world, right? Oh, we're gonna win the division. We're gonna make a deep playoff run. Everybody's healthy. We have a reinforced offensive line. Breece Hall's back. That's good. Garrett Wilson. Now we have Devontae Adams. The sky's the limit, right? And then we keep losing, and then we face statistically the worst quarterback in the NFL in Anthony Richardson, and we lose. And on the last drive, Rodgers does what he always does in crunch time when it matters most. He sits in the pocket, plays way too conservatively, gets a sack, or can't convert when it matters. That's exactly what Rodgers does. You look at his career clutch numbers, they're not good for what we're establishing as a first ballot Hall of Famer. So now on top of what do the Jets do moving forward, I think a perfectly acceptable question, I know it's still there, a perfectly acceptable question is Rodgers, is the Jets' Aaron Rodgers going to be a ding on his overall career? Because he's the past 2 seasons that we've seen him, the last year with the Packers and this season with the Jets, he has not been good.
No, definitely this taints his career. I think he won't be back with them next year. It's highly unlikely. I don't think the media is just killing him.
As they should.
And Rodgers in particular, they call him a mercenary. They say that he doesn't lose any sleep over this terrible season. So they don't want him back. Nobody wants him back. He'll be gone at the end of the season. Whether he'll continue to play or not, I would say probably he will, because he's got a huge ego and he doesn't want to go out like this. So I'm not sure where he'd wind up. I think the expectations for him will be quite low. He'll be looked as maybe a game manager type of player, somebody with a lot of experience, a former MVP, the type quarterback who could help maybe a franchise that really had maybe the Raiders, somebody like the Raiders. He might be somebody who could be better than Gardner Minshew or O'Connell. So I think he'll still be around, but I don't think he'll be with the Jets.
And I agree. And the sources are telling Rich Cimini, he would be shocked if Woody Johnson says, "You know what, Rodgers, come on back." Show me any glimmer of hope. Now you have players saying they've checked out this season. They want it to be over. Rodgers keeps bringing up darkness, and he's playing terribly. You just went up against statistically the worst quarterback in the NFL, and you lost. I think you had 6 yards in the first quarter. This is a bad football team. And it's worse because Jets fans had all these expectations because you have a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback. You have a healthy set of receivers. You have a reinforced offensive line. You're coming off a season where your defense was ranked number 1 by Pro Football Focus. You had everything going for you. And Rodgers just being there was enough to have your season sort of collapse instantly. You went 2-1 with Robert Saleh. You have a couple bad losses, you fire him, and then everything goes. At least your defense was still respectable. Now with Jeff Ulbrich as your interim head coach, and you have Todd Downing as your play caller, now both sides of the ball are failing. Not just the offense looks bad.
Yeah, firing Saleh was a huge mistake.
So maybe you should have just switched Nat Hackett and Todd Downing, and then it might have been okay. But you decided to abandon ship early with Robert Saleh. I think really, and we can talk about Joe Douglas all the time. Yes, he had first of all, he drafted Will McDonald, which I thought was an overdraft, but looks incredible now. You had that insane draft in 2022, and you got Braylon Allen and Olu Fashanu. Olu Fashanu, you're using as a backup piece. He's not even a starter yet because you thought this nice offensive line would be good enough to hold up, and it just hasn't been. Braylon Allen looks good. You got to use him more. Short distances. Breece Hall generally has difficulty in the 3rd and 3s, the 3rd and 2s, the 2nd and 3s. Give it to Braylon Allen. He's 240 pounds. Have him running up the gut. Red zone. If you're 5 yards from the end zone, give it to Braylon Allen. But they don't. And I think it's unfortunate. But Joe Douglas is not the issue. To abandon ship, to completely just sort of get rid of your entire staff, it's not the problem. It's big, fat, old number 8. Number 8 is the guy.
Yeah, I would say number 8 and Woody Johnson. Too bad they can't fire him.
Well, he's the owner. Sell the team. That's the only way you can do it.
He's going to head off to maybe the UK to be the ambassador to the UK for Trump. But then, that doesn't help really because his brother winds up taking over, Christopher. And he didn't have any luck either. So I don't know. The Jets they're a snake-bitten franchise, I must say. They've had nothing but terrible luck since 1968. They've been nothing but disappointment, lots of losses. I mean, Rex Ryan has been their best head coach.
Bring him back.
It
was almost the DC, the Cowboys, which at this point might have looked like the better decision. Mike Zimmer he can't get anything right. He just got absolutely cooked by the Texans. Yeah, we're going to take a quick break. 30-second break. I'm going to fix the camera thing, but yeah, we'll be back in a second.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.
All right, welcome back. Sorry for that technical difficulty. Let's jump into and it's still gone. That's fine. Let's jump into our next topic of today's show, which is the New York Giants, because the New York Giants have benched Daniel Jones, which is not that surprising. The Giants are 2-8. Daniel Jones has only won 3 games out of the past 16 since September, or going back to September of 2023. They have not been good. What's surprising, though, is that they're bringing in Tommy DeVito in place of what would have been the backup Drew Lock. Daniel Jones now goes to QB3, and they also signed today Tim Boyle to their practice squad. Could that mean they're fully deactivating Daniel Jones? Maybe, I'm not entirely sure. But they have 4 quarterbacks currently that they could use if they decide to bring up Tim Boyle into mode, other Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, or Daniel Jones. But I want to know, though, what's a smart idea to move Daniel Jones to the bench at this point in the season?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he has that a guarantee in his contract if he gets injured anytime the rest of this year, that he gets a $23 million injury guarantee. And I think they were afraid of that, so they're benching him now, and he's on his way out now. This is the end. I don't think he'll be back. I think they'll let him go. Denver did the same thing to Russell Wilson, and so did the Raiders to Garoppolo. So I think that's the end for Daniel Jones, which in a way is a little sad. I mean, he did have that good season in 2022 and took him to the playoffs. He was ranked number 6 ranked quarterback that season, but they're benching starts the process of moving on from him. He was signed. He had the 4-year deal, $160 million, less than 2 years ago. But the Giants are 2-8 this year. Daniel Jones is, I think, 3-13 since he got the deal. So they told him on Monday, and Dable said, "I got a lot of respect for Daniel. I've said that before. These conversations will remain private. Certainly, you're not going to be happy about being benched as a competitor, and I respect that." DeVito starts against the Bucs. They're going with him, I think, because he created a spark for them last year. He won 3 games in a row. After the loss to the Panthers, Dable said everything would be evaluated during the bye, and that was the hint that this was going to happen. They'll look for a quarterback in the draft, I think, this year. Now they're benching Jones, and they'll get rid of him. They benched him once earlier in the season against the Eagles when they got so far behind. DeVito last year, 3 straight wins, which was exciting. What would they call him? Tommy, what was
Tommy
it?
Cutlets.
Cutlets, yeah. Tommy Cutlets. He's living at home with his mother. I don't know if he still is or not. As I said, Giants 3-13 under Jones since he got his deal over the past 2 years, 10 TDs, 13 interceptions, 2 picks deep in Panthers territory last week in that 2017 loss. That was the end. The Giants right now, 32nd in scoring at 15.6 per game. They're going to get a top pick, and I'm sure they're going to go to to a quarterback in the draft. I'm not sure who would be available, but they'll be in the top 3 or 4 picks, so they should be able to get a good one. Benching on and moving on Jones is a big indictment of Daboll and Schoen, I think, because they were the ones that gave him that contract, and now he's on his way out.
Well, I think it's very, very fascinating that Tommy DeVito is the starter, although Tommy DeVito at least knows this system. He's been there much longer. Meanwhile, Drew Lock, injured, hasn't played much when he was out there. 3 of 8 for like 6 yards, no touchdowns, had 2 fumbles. It was pretty bad. DeVito, during that 3-game winning streak in 2023, he had the 2nd best passer rating in the NFL. So that's above Jordan Love and Tua and C.J. Stroud, Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. He was above all these guys. The only guy he was below was Brock Purdy, who was having a phenomenal year. Also had 4 touchdowns, no picks. And let's add a little bit of context. That was against the Commanders, who their offensive line was a sieve. The Patriots, Mac Jones completely, crapped the bed. And the Green Bay Packers, which was a very impressive win. They beat them 24-22. So is Tommy DeVito the right guy to go to? I don't think there is a right guy, because right now you're looking at losing more games because currently you have the 4th overall pick in the draft. Mac Jones leading the way for the Jaguars is great for the Jaguars because they're in first spot to get that draft pick. So you're going to need to lose more games. What I find fascinating is a lot of people are talking about, well, Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, are they going to lose their jobs? If I'm not mistaken, I could be completely wrong. Didn't John Mara already say that they're going to bring back both of them for 2025? I don't think that this is a reflection of coaching or being able to be a general manager at all. Because look at the moves that they've made recently. The draft picks that they've had recently. They've been great. The acquisitions have been great. Now, the only bad decision, and it was an obvious decision to make, and it was kind of a bad idea not to do it, was sign Saquon Barkley. That was obvious. You were $250,000 off from the Philadelphia Eagles, and you decided not to do it. Giving the contract to Daniel Jones, yeah, again, not great. 5th overall pick, quarterback from Duke, wasn't that great in college. It just wasn't a good move whatsoever. So for me, this has no, reflection of what Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen can do. Benching Daniel Jones was the right move because you also have to worry about a $23 million injury guarantee, which obviously this is now the 3rd straight year where we've had a quarterback get benched due to an injury guarantee. It was Derek Carr a few years ago. Last year it was Russell Wilson. This year it's Daniel Jones. They're going to talk about how it's performance-based. Yeah, I'm sure a portion of it is performance-based because entering Monday, the Giants are dead last in points scored per game. Jones is 26th in adjusted QBR, 32nd in passer rating, 79.4. That's abysmal. And like I mentioned, in the run-up to this topic, the Giants have won 3 out of the last 16 games dating back to September of 2023. The Giants are not a good football team. And again, I go back to people ripping on me for not putting him in my top 10 list, entering last season. Why? One good year does not make a quarterback. And it wasn't even a good year. He had 15 touchdowns. If you want to include rushing as well, 22 touchdowns. That's not great. That's not top 15. That's definitely not top 10. He wasn't a good quarterback. And the offensive line this year was much better than it has been. Yes, recently it hasn't been great. Yeah, you know why? Andrew Thomas is injured. He's out for the year. I would think a top 3 or 4 tackle in the NFL, if he goes down, your offensive line's going to suffer. The offensive line has been good, has been decent. It's been good enough for most average to good quarterbacks to operate. And especially if people think he was a top 10 quarterback, why can't he operate underneath these situations? So you have a better offensive line, you have a true wide receiver 1, your defensive front's good, and honestly, the safeties that were coming into this season ranked dead last. One of them is actually pretty damn good. So I would say that the Giants' problem was quarterback, is quarterback, and maybe even into the future will be quarterback because that's just how it's been in recent memory. But this has nothing to do, in my opinion. This should not be Joe Schoen's problem or Brian Daboll's problem because we look at the drafts, we look at the acquisitions, they can make moves. Brian Daboll, we've seen what he did with Josh Allen and how he refined Josh Allen. He's a good coach. Bad quarterbacks get good coaches fired. So if John Mara is going to go back on his word, this offseason and say, you know what, we're gonna let Brian Daboll go. We're gonna let Joe Schoen go. both those guys are going to get a job within the month. I guarantee it. Brian Daboll is too good of a coach to be just left out there unemployed.
Now, he may be a good coach, but he may not be a great head coach.
I would say he's
I don't think he's that great
coach of the year.
I personally don't think he's that great a head coach. I mean,
based on what?
He gets all shaken over on the sidelines, yelling and screaming, all animated, yelling at people.
Belichick has slammed tablets to the ground. He slammed telephones.
But not like
Brady
Brian Daboll.
slams
Brian
tablets.
Daboll in the face of the players, yelling at them.
Accountability.
I think that's bad.
Why do you think
for
it's bad, though?
You know, he took over the play calling. Look at the offense. It's one of the worst in the league.
They have Daniel Jones at quarterback.
I don't care. It's terrible. And I think
they have Tyrone Tracy as their best running back.
I think
and Malik Neighbors was out for a few weeks with a concussion.
Yeah.
They have nobody. You look at that offense and you put it at the. Here's the thing. Let's say everybody's healthy.
Then why is Joe Shane? Why do you say he's going to get a job then? If they've got nothing, he's been the guy who's been putting the players on the field.
He drafted Malik Neighbors.
Okay.
He made that offensive line the best it's been probably in 8 years.
Well, it's been terrible. It's last in the league in points scored.
Not the offensive line. I'm talking about the offensive line.
Offensive line.
You know why the offense is ranked dead last? They have Daniel Jones at quarterback. You always say the quarterback handles the ball in every play.
We'll see what Tommy Cutlets does.
I'm not expecting much. This, for me, having Tommy DeVito out there is strictly for fan purposes. He has a personality to him. Drew Lock would be out there to try to win games. Tommy DeVito may win games,
if I was Drew Lock,
but he's a personality.
If I was Drew Lock, I'd be pissed. They gave him every reason to believe he'd have a chance to start.
Well, that was the report when they first acquired him that says he has a chance at starting. But for me, no, Tommy DeVito out there is strictly for fan purposes. It has nothing to do about winning games. And I think if the move is to win games, the Giants are doing what the Jets are. They're a bad franchise, making the wrong decisions because they have the 4th overall pick. And my guess would be that a top 3 team would be looking at Shedeur Sanders and saying, you know what? I'm going to draft Shedeur. And again, I don't think the Giants were in love with Daniel Jones. If you like a quarterback and you have a top 3 or 4 pick in the draft,
$160 million, you got to feel something for him.
That's bad. He had one good season, and that's the only stain on Joe Shane is giving Daniel Jones that $40 million contract with $82 million guaranteed or $81 million guaranteed. That's really his only bad step. At least Joe Douglas, you could say, well, what about the past 2 drafts late in the draft? Has he hit on anybody? And then you could argue, well, no, not really. Joe Shane has at least hit on a number of pieces. Late in the draft, middle of the draft, early. Like, he's hit on a couple where, now I'm not saying hits like Jamar Chase or Malik Neighbors, but no, good quality players.
Well,
at least Joe Douglas hasn't done that, but again, he's not the problem in New York.
Who was the guy that drafted Jones, number 6 in the draft?
I believe that was Dave Gettleman.
Yeah, Gettleman.
He was a massive problem.
Yeah.
And they got rid of him probably a season or 2 late. But Shane came in there and made a couple nice moves, and really not signing Saquon and giving Jones the contract are the only 2 major things that he's done.
Well, that's pretty bad.
And well, it's bad when you take a look at the Saquon situation because they were $250,000 off, and that's coming off of Daniel Jones signing the $40 million contract. And even I used to have the clip up queued. Kayvon Thibodeau went on a podcast a little while ago and said that he had an issue with them not giving a contract to Saquon. That's what I wish I had it queued up still. But yeah, he went on a podcast about a year ago when they were still going through that before he signed like the $100K more of incentives deal last year. Kayvon said, you know what, I was upset that they didn't give it to Saquon after they signed Daniel Jones. That's those 2. The only issue I have with Shane. You drafted Kayvon Thibodeau. You improved the offensive line, the best it's been in a long time. You draft Malik Neighbors. Defensively, you have a couple studs. You made the trade for Brian Burns. You made a couple very nice moves. And now it's just about getting the quarterback right. Like, this is a bad football team. And there's really no upside whatsoever. But I do find it interesting having Daniel Jones as the 3rd quarterback. So Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock would both need to be injured for Daniel Jones to even have a shot at playing. It's not the backup, which is a little bit surprising. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but coming up, the Bills handed the Chiefs their first loss of the season, and no surprise, the Steelers were able to shut down Lamar and the Baltimore Ravens. We'll talk about that right after this break.
traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Tuesday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of tonight's show. So the Buffalo Bills handed the Chiefs their first loss of the season, and it came on a Josh Allen 4th and 2 scramble with 2:24 left in the fourth quarter, breaking tackles, evading defenders, and also getting punched in the process. And he was able to score that monumental touchdown, 4th and 2. You leave it up to Josh Allen to make the play. Don't say screw his arm. Go in, run it yourself, in which he did actually on a second down play. He was able to actually run it for a few yards. But, of course, this means that the Chiefs are no longer undefeated. 17-0 dream is now dead. What was your reaction to the Bills? They were favored in this game. The Bills maintaining that and ended up winning this game 30-21.
To win and to cover, and they did both. I'm not that surprised. They've beaten the Chiefs 4 in a row now in the regular season. It's a postseason where they can't seem to get it done. They're 0-3 against them 3 years in a row, so which I think is a little bit of a taint on Josh Allen. But Allen looked great the other night against Patrick Mahomes. He was 27 of 40, 262 yards, and a TD. He also was the leading rusher for the Bills at 12 for 55 yards and another touchdown. That 26-yard run was the biggest gain in those 55 yards, and he looked great doing it. The other players, in terms of outstanding performances, not so much. I mean, he spread the ball around, both running and passing. Cook had 9 carries for 20 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. Johnson 5 for 18. Davis only 5 for 11. Shakir was the leading receiver with 8 for 70 yards. Samuel had 5 for 58. Cooper, who had a couple of very nice catches, that one-handed catch was really fantastic, and then the other one was really good too. That was for 55. Those 2 catches for 55 yards. He played kind of sparingly because of that wrist injury he still has. On the Chiefs side of the ball, Mahomes, 23 of 33, 196 yards. Didn't get to 200 yards, but had 3 TDs. Hunt was the leading rusher, but they didn't do much on the ground at all. 14 carries for 60 yards for Hunt. Hardman had 1 for 9. He's a wide receiver on an end around. Worthy, the same thing. 1 for 7 yards. That was it. On the receiving side, Worthy, 4 for 61 and a TD. Hopkins, 3 for 29. Watson, 2 for 26. Kelsey, 2 for only 8 yards. They really stopped Kelsey. I think they slowed down Mahomes. He didn't have more than 200. He had less than 200 yards passing, and they stopped. They just bottled up Kelsey. He did nothing. At the end of the game, Mahomes whispered to Allen, "We're going to do it again, baby." And that means the playoffs, and that's a little ding on Allen from Mahomes. Say, guess what, guy? We always win in the playoffs. You beat us in the regular season. We're going to be in the playoffs. We're 9-1, and you're 9-2. I think the Bills still have a chance maybe to get that 1 seed. We'll see if the Chiefs can recover from this loss and go back on another winning streak. The Bills have won 4 regular season games, as I said, in a row against the Chiefs, but 3 consecutive playoff losses, which I think, as I said, taints Allen's career a little bit. Allen said it means we have 9 wins. We have 9 wins. Last time I checked, 9 wins doesn't get you into the playoffs. Given the history, we meet in the playoffs. We're not there yet. We'll focus on that when we get there. The Bills played I think, complete and balanced game, having a great year in what was deemed to be a bridge season, I think, after the veterans purge, Stephon Diggs and a bunch of players on defense they got rid of. I think it's a very commendable year for them to be 9-2. And a little bit of a surprise. We picked them to be third. I did anyway, third in the division this year. And now they're easily going to win it. I mentioned Mahomes under 200 yards. Kelsey bottled up. This big game was a good experience, I think, for the Bills' young players. They have a lot of young players this year. It serves the Bills well when going into January, having had a big game and winning it. I think the Chiefs have proven they can look vulnerable in the regular season and then turn it on in the playoffs and win on the road. And that may be, it's either going to be Bills at home or Bills at Arrowhead. And right now it looks like Bills at Arrowhead, but we'll have to wait and see. And as I said, the Bills at 9-2 have a shot at the 1 seed.
Well, I think that, yes, we did both have the Bills winning this game. I kind of expected it to go a little bit differently. I thought it would be shootout, very high scoring. Each team gets, around 30 points, and depending on how you think of 21 points with the Chiefs being near it, you may say, well, you kind of got what you were kind of thinking about and hoping for. But I was very impressed with the Buffalo Bills because what we've seen over the course of the season is against good teams, the Bills kind of falter a little bit. Josh Allen against the Texans, 30% completion percentage. But that game was surprisingly close, and I thought that says more about the Texans than it does the Bills. And then against the Baltimore Ravens, you got absolutely blown out, and you can't stop the run whatsoever. Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson had their way with you however they wanted. In this game, it was important. The Bills coming off very lucky wins, and according to a certain stat follower, team rankings, the Chiefs ranked number 1 in the NFL in luck rating at a 3.0. No other team has higher than a 1.7. So, like I said, the Chiefs have been a very, very lucky team. That's why for the past, we're going into week 12, so for the past 4 weeks, I've had the Lions as the number 1 team because they've looked like the number 1 team. They haven't needed things to go right for them to outplay everybody. The Bills, on the other hand, they're coming off a couple bad losses, trying to figure out where their footing is. They've been battling injuries, and that's where this game is very impressive because they were down their starting right tackle. Their number 1 if you want to call him a number 1 wide receiver, and they were down at least 1 starting wide receiver in Keon Coleman. And they have a couple banged up injuries. Matt Milano's still trying to make his way back. Will he by the end of the year? I would think so. But they're still dealing with a little bit of an injury. Josh Allen, a little bit of he's had a couple turnovers lately that show some recklessness that he's had, pre and sort of post Brian Daboll. He got a little bit turnover prone. But that seemed to tone down completely in this game. I think there were a few plays that mattered a lot. So you mentioned a couple of them. Let's bring up Amari Cooper's catches because these were very crucial to open up the game. Where do you do one-hand catch for Amari Cooper? Incredibly impressive. Big time. Keep the sticks moving.
Hand.
Yeah, he had a bad wrist. This second one, again, the second quarter. Beautiful throw, cross-field, beautiful location of the football. The second one would be, how about this? A 3rd and 9 on the last drive of the game for the Bills. Khalil Shakir, 3rd and 9 when it matters. You need this first down, otherwise everybody knows Mahomes is going to drive down and score a field goal or score a touchdown. 3rd and 9, you come up with a massive play, and then obviously the big play of the day, which is indeed the 4th and 2 scramble, the game-winning touchdown. Have Josh Allen in his arms, make him use his athleticism, and score this touchdown. So the Bills stepped up when they needed to. Curtis Samuel had a very good game. Amari Cooper, wrist injury. They didn't know if he was going to be ready for this game. He came out. He played phenomenally. Khalil Shakir had some big-time catches. The Bills had 6 plays over 20 yards. Meanwhile, Kansas City had 1. One singular explosive play. The Bills had 6. This looks like a completely different Bills team. I can understand why people are now saying, well, is this a Super Bowl team? Is this, the team that could finally break the curse of Mahomes in the playoffs? And if they keep playing like this, and especially, let's say things go a certain way where maybe the Bills don't play the Ravens before the Chiefs do. So we could see Bills-Chiefs AFC Championship game if the Chiefs once again defeat the Ravens in the playoffs. Could this Bills team make it past Mahomes for the first time in the playoffs instead of going 0 for 4 against them? This Bills team looks different, and especially with the way Mahomes has been playing, I think there's a serious shot that this Bills team could make the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, I'd like to see that. I think the Patriots certainly aren't going anywhere this year. I'd root for the winner of the division in the AFC East, and that would be the Bills. I'd love to see them get to the Super Bowl and win one. One thing I'd say, but we haven't mentioned about the Chiefs, the defense gave up 14 points in the fourth quarter. That's uncharacteristic of them, and I don't know, maybe their defense has a few holes in it now. They've had a hard time stopping teams late in the games lately, and this showed up in this game too. 14 points in the fourth quarter.
Well, yeah, no, that's big because Mahomes, we know, if you give him the ball last, he's going to score some level of points, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown. You give Mahomes the ball with hell, the Bills gave him the ball with 13 seconds and he scored. With any length of time, they'll figure out a way to put up points. So that 3rd and 9 to Shakir, incredibly crucial because that was about with 4 minutes remaining. Josh Allen, 4th and 2 run. With about, a minute? What was it again? Let's bring it over time. How much time was left? 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. Josh Allen needs to make a play. Do not put the ball in harm's way. Tuck it. You are 6'5", 240? Run that damn football. And he did. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful sight to see.
Beautiful play.
So the Bills did exactly what they needed to. But I think, once again, we can't necessarily do this because of their record, but we need to criticize Patrick Mahomes more. He has not been a good quarterback this year. He is tied for the league in interceptions. He's 11th in passing yards, 10th in touchdowns. Sam Darnold, Rodgers, and Jordan Love, who has only played 8 games, by the way, have all had more touchdown passes than Patrick Mahomes. Travis Kelce has been taken out of the regular season so far. He has had one really good game, but outside of that one game has been a no factor. And especially in a big-time game like this, he needed to make some big-time plays. He was targeted, 2 or 3 times, 1 catch.
Yeah, he's thinking about Taylor Swift.
Mahomes is dinking and dunking. Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, and Deshaun Watson all have pushed the ball down the field more than Mahomes has. They're just not a great team. They're a lucky team. They've gotten away with a lot. And like I said, according to team rankings, I don't know how much credibility you want to put into that. I'm sure some viewers would have an issue with it. They're the luckiest team in the NFL. I've been on it for the past 4 weeks. The Lions have played like the best team because they haven't needed some things to go right. And I think if we're looking at the Chiefs now, we take a look at Baltimore, Bills, Lions. Would you put the Chiefs over any one of those teams?
Baltimore, Bills, and the Lions. Maybe not. Maybe not.
So that means you would start Kansas City as the 4th best team in the NFL.
I might be up there with Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore has their defense is very suspect. Their pass defense is terrible. They lost to the Steelers again. They can't beat the Steelers. They've lost 8 of the last 9 to the Steelers, 4 in a row now. I think Baltimore, the glow has come off them a little bit. We'll see where they are in the power rankings this week. I think they're dropping a little bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely they have. But speaking about that, let's actually talk about the Baltimore Ravens because the Ravens ended up losing and Lamar Jackson ended up losing once again to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That now has Lamar Jackson falling to 1-4 against the Steelers in his career, while the Steelers get a game and a half above in the AFC North. The game ended on this 2-point conversion play where Nelson Aguilar and Isaiah Likely didn't know who was going to break out. Lamar has to scramble out to his left to make a crazy play, try to make something out of literally nothing, and he can't do it. I don't like this play call at all. The personnel that was out there, I think, was a massive mistake, but that ended up forcing the Ravens to lose, and the Steelers once again claim victory. As you just mentioned, the past 9 times these teams have faced against one another, Baltimore has gone a pathetic 1-8. So I would like to know, though, what was your takeaway from Pittsburgh's win over Baltimore in Lamar Jackson's first feel-around of this Baltimore-Pittsburgh rivalry?
I would say it was a classic Ravens-Steelers defensive battle when it was really expected to be a high-scoring game. That didn't pan out. It was a knockout, knockdown, bash 'em. It was a very physical game. And the Steelers didn't even score a touchdown. I mean, they had 6 field goals. The Ravens scored 2 touchdowns, missed an extra point, which was big. And forced them to go for that 2-pointer at the end with only a couple minutes left in the game. You look at the stats. Wilson, pedestrian game really, 23 of 36, 205 yards, no TDs. Jackson, 16 of 33, 207 TD. He did run the ball for 46 yards on only 4 carries. Harris was their big rusher for the Pittsburgh, 18 of 63. Warren, 9 for 41. Justin Fields, two carries for 17 yards. Those were very important. Those iced the game for the Steelers at the end, even though Fields made a mistake by sliding too soon before he got the first down. They still managed to get that first down. On the rushing side for the Ravens, Henry, very pedestrian game, 13 of 65 for 65. He had 1 touchdown, uncharacteristic for him. The receiving, likely 4 for 75 yards. Flowers, 2 for 39, but he had a touchdown. He also had a bad drop. Bateman, 2 for 30, and Hill, 4 for 28. So Lamar spread the ball around a little bit, but again, he only had 207 yards. He's been passing for a lot more than that recently. So the Steelers D, I think that played a lot. That played into this, and actually the Ravens D didn't play so badly either. The receiving on the Pittsburgh side, Pickens 8 for 89, Washington 2 for 42, Harris 4 for 30, and Warren 4 for 27. As I mentioned, the Steelers have won 4 in a row now in the series, 8 of the last 9. As you mentioned, Wilson threw third down interception into the end zone there, which was harking back to Wilson playing the way he did at Denver. The Ravens couldn't get that 2-point conversion to tie the game. That was the play of the game. The same thing happened to them in 2021. They had the same situation. They couldn't get a 2-pointer, and they lost the game. Justin Fields helped ensure the win with 2 carries at the end of the game. Made a mistake, as I said, sliding early and not getting the first down. Boswell was the player of the game with 6 field goals, 32, 52, 52, 57, 27, and 50. That's quite a game. This guy, I think, is the best field goal kicker in the league.
I'd still give that to Brandon Aubrey. He made a 64-yard kick that Mike McCarthy decided, you know what? We'll accept the penalty. And what did they do? Turnover on downs. Points didn't count. So I'd still give it to Brandon Aubrey. But it's my redemption day. I feel great. I feel absolutely great. You know why? Another expected performance from Lamar Jackson. And honestly, what we heard pregame is kind of shocking because he was asked, what's the deal with you not finding success against the Steelers? And his response was, I don't know. Well, this was him post-game about losing another game to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Take a listen to what he had to say.
It's been that way for ever since last year, I believe. Going back to the AFC Championship game, we killed ourselves. Chiefs game, the opener, killed ourselves. Raiders, we killed ourselves. And today, same thing. It's just like we can't be beating ourselves in these type of games. We got to find a way to fix that. Should have known.
Well, one of the ways you can fix it is playing well. You just didn't play well. Under 50% completion percentage. Not a good game at all. Several missed throws. In fact, we have a number of the missed throws. Let's play some of them, why don't we? These were all completely missed throws. You know, you want to go roll out to your right, deep throw to the right side, overthrow. Really no shot at actually catching that football. How about this one? Deep play left side to Deontay Johnson. He has found no success since going over the Ravens. Overthrow, and honestly, that's a bad angle, but if he actually did catch it, the ball would have been out of bounds. This one, I was at Zay Flowers. Overthrow again. This next one's going to be to Isaiah Likely, I believe. Or no, Mark Andrews. Overthrow. Just overthrow. No real accuracy. So if Lamar just played better, it'd be great because the defense, shockingly, stepped up beautifully. They played a tremendous game. Russell Wilson passing the football in the first half was 12 of 20 for 76 yards, and they sacked him 4 times. He could do nothing. He looked slow. He did not move very well outside the pocket. He was not completing passes. The defense did its job. Who didn't do his job? Lamar Jackson, but that's expected. It seems like we put the ball we take the ball out of Derrick Henry's hands, which, by the way, 8 carries in the first half for 52 yards. That's 6.5 yards per carry. He had a long run of 31 yards and a touchdown. He ran it only 5 more times the rest of the game. Again, the play calling, the strategy, and that's the issue I have on the 2-point conversion. Justice Hill is out there. You're obviously going to either pass the football or do a QB sneak because nobody's fearing Justice Hill on the 2-yard line. But if we take the ball out of Derrick Henry's hands, he had 13 carries in this game. So how about this? I did this before with 20 carries for Derrick Henry. Let's even shrink it down even more to 15 carries. These are Derrick Henry's numbers when rushing 15 or more times. He wins nearly 68% of his games, 5 yards a carry, 109 rush yards a game. He averages over a touchdown per game in these games, and his team wins by double digits, by more than 10 points a game. But how about this? Lamar threw it 33 times. Let's take a look at his numbers when he's relied on a lot. When he throws 29 or fewer times, 83% win percentage, completion percentage of nearly 70%. He averages 194. It's rounded up, actually. The official number is 193.67 passing yards a game, 93 touchdowns, 25 picks, a 107 passer rating. What happens if he throws it 30 or more times? His numbers shrink. 57% winning percentage. He's won like 70% of his games, so the winning percentage, it does shrink by a lot, 83 to 57, but it still is over 500. Completion percentage of only 62%. He has more passing yards a game, obviously, 250 essentially. Only 56 touchdowns to 22 interceptions. He has 40 less touchdowns and only 3 fewer picks and a passer rating of 91. Is he a bad quarterback? Absolutely not. There's a reason why he's a 2-time MVP, nearly 2-time unanimous MVP, and he was on pace and still could have an opportunity to win his 3rd MVP this season. But in the biggest games, against the Kansas City Chiefs, against the Pittsburgh Steelers, in the playoffs, when it matters the most, when in this game at least, the defense did its job, we come up with excuses. The fumbles, the penalties. Guess what? None of this is new. They were the most penalized team before this game, and after this game, they're still the most penalized team. So people want to bring up let's just go double screen. People want to bring up, they have 12 penalties. They were still the league leader in penalties before this game. So nothing is like, this is a unique game. We had 12 penalties. That's the most we've had all season. We never draw. No, they were the most penalized team in the NFL. Nothing was new. Not running it with Derrick Henry only 5 times in the second half. Again, that's a mistake. Put the ball in his hands. See what he does with it. Don't take it out of his hands. You picked the Ravens, by the way. I'm surprised you're not defending Baltimore more.
Well, you bring up some good stats there. Those are interesting stats.
This is the truth. It ain't stats. These are facts.
Well, I said those stats are facts. I'm not saying they aren't facts. I think that the
people.
I think the strategy was a mistake. They should have pounded it more with Derrick Henry. They would control the clock more, and they would wear down the defense a little bit. And they kind of got away from that, and that was. As you said, they did well in the first half when he carried the ball more. He had a 31-yard run. He had a touchdown. I'm sure he was upset that he was left over there on the sideline at the end of the game. Why not put him in for the 2-point conversion try?
Look at this. Wrong clip. There, I want to get the right one up. Which one is it? It's this one. There we go. You have Justice Hill out there. Then you have Wallace, and then Nelson Aguilar. And you have Isaiah Likely.
Play it again. I mean, Andrews was open. Now look, watch.
Well, Andrews breaks open.
There he is. He's open right there.
Yeah, but he's not in line of sight. There's no way that Lamar is going to look this way all across the way that way when you have four, Pittsburgh Steelers.
When the Henry played for the Titans, sometimes he threw the ball.
Oh, yeah.
They hand it off to him with those goal line thing, and he just pops a little pass in there. They kind of try something like that. They get a little more creative. Keep Derrick Henry in the game. I agree with you. That was the difference, I think.
Well, it's an instant tell, too, because if we remember, right before that actual two-point conversion, the Steelers, I believe, called a timeout as soon as the ball got snapped, and we could already see Lamar going to do a QB sneak. We saw it immediately when the ball snapped. Lamar took it head down and started to run, but the timeout was called. So I think everybody knew Lamar was going to either roll out to the right or make some sort of design QB run to try to win the game. And especially when you have Justice Hill out there, it's an obvious tell that he's probably not going to get the football. Derrick Henry is the main rusher for this team. He was the league leader in rushing yards, and he's had a touchdown in every single game this season. And you don't have him out for large parts of the fourth quarter and on the biggest play of this game on a two-point conversion.
I think they should have gone with him in the I formation. It would have looked like they were going to run it. They could have gone play action, given Lamar the option. He would have had more time back there in the pocket to and maybe to scramble a little bit to find the open receiver. Maybe they would have gotten the 2-point play.
Once again, I'm not surprised. Steelers came out big. Steelers won. They've won, 8 out of the last 9.
Well, they're not going to win too many more if they can't score touchdowns. I mean, they didn't have
If you play Baltimore, you will. If you play Baltimore.
Well, you don't play Baltimore every game. They got them one more time. They still got a lot of games to go.
You had 20 more plays than Baltimore did. You had the same amount of drives. You had 2 fewer yards per play. The defense did its job. I mean, think about it. I would have zero confidence on the late game drive if Russell Wilson was out there instead of Justin Fields, because they already tried a QB sneak with Russell Wilson out there that failed. Justin Fields came in, and that was kind of a sigh of relief because you're like, okay, at least we'll have some speed. And guess what? What was the crucial part? Getting the first down, or would have been the first down if he didn't slide too early, but he used his speed. Russell Wilson couldn't have done that. He's way too slow now. So we saw the package that Arthur Smith was talking about, and it came in the biggest moment. And also, I'll add this. Russell Wilson threw a horrible interception. So you had an opportunity. You had several opportunities in this game. Missed throws, miscommunications, bad offense. Defense did its job. Held him to 0 touchdowns. Chris Boswell went 6 for 6. If you go under 50% completion percentage, have 207 passing yards, a touchdown, and by the way, Peyton Wilson, what an interception. It was kind of underthrown. Peyton Wilson made a great play on it. Steelers defense is legit.
No, I agree with that.
But again, Ravens defense did its job. If I'm the DC of the Baltimore Ravens, I'm looking at it like, well, we didn't allow a single touchdown, and somehow we still lost. That's what I'm looking at. If I'm I'm looking at it like, well, our defense didn't allow Russell Wilson or anybody to score 6. I can live with field goals. I can't live with my offense not being able to put up any sort of points when it matters the most. Obviously, Orr won't say that, but that's what I would say if I was him. Let's get to our final topic of today's show. Sunday Night Football, Bengals-Chargers. What a game it was, but it nearly was a repeat of what we've seen over the history of the Los Angeles Chargers, where it's choke, 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 choke. And it looked like that because up 24-6 entering the second half, what did the Bengals do? Stepped up big time and was actually able to tie the game 27-27. They didn't score really for large swaths of the fourth quarter. And then finally, the Chargers were able to pull away late. J.K. Dobbins rushing touchdown to seal another victory for the Chargers and hand the Bengals another brutal loss. That is their 3rd loss out of the last 4 games. While the Chargers have won their 4th straight, they play Baltimore on Monday Night Football this week. But I want to know, Bengals lost 3 of the last 4. They keep saying, well, this one's a must-win, must-win, must-win. They've been incredibly unlucky this season. I would like to know, is it's time to now officially call time of death on the Bengals season, Week 11, against the Chargers, 24-7? Time of death?
I'd say the Bengals lose another heartbreaker after coming back from a 21-point deficit. Tied the game at 27 with 12:21 left in the game. Roughing the passer overturned a Burrow interception, which was good luck for the Bengals. McPherson missed the 51-yarder with 2 minutes to go. They still got the ball back, but went 3 and out. So you look at the stats here. Burrow, what a game. 28 of 50, 356 yards, 3 touchdowns. Brown, 28 28 attempts for 86 yards. Burrow, 2 for 28. Receiving, Higgins back, had a nice game, 9 receptions, 148 yards, a TD. Chase, he went over 1,000 yards for the 4th year in a row, only the 6th player in NFL history to do that. He had 7 receptions for 75 yards, 2 TDs. Nothing wrong with the Bengals passing game. Unfortunately, you need more than that to win, and their defense really is very, very disappointing. Brown had 5 receptions for 57 yards. On the other side of the ball, Herbert, a very nice game, 17 of 36, 297, 2 TDs. Herbert was also the leading rusher, 5 for 65 yards. Dobbins had 11 for 56 and 2 TDs. Edwards, 6 for 27. Receiving, McConkey is looking like a great rookie. 6 receptions, 123 yards. Disley, 4 for 80, and Johnston, 2 for 48. I just think the Bengals now what are they? 4-7.
4-7.
4-7. The Chargers 7-3, looking good. They're headed to the playoffs with Jim Harbaugh, first year back, taking that team, turning it around, making it a playoff contender. Tough on defense. Very consistent on offense with Justin Herbert as leading the way for them. Looking very, very good. The Bengals, on the other hand, heartbreaking losses. I blame a lot of it on their defense and their coaching staff. They always start slow. You can't do that in this league. I mean, when they lost their first 3 games, I think they always lose the beginning of the season. And this year, they just haven't been able to pick it up. And even though they've lost so many games by 1 score and had the chance to win right at the end with the field goal kicker who can't seem to make it. So tough year for the Bengals, particularly disappointing, ruining a great season by Joe Burrow. He's really, after starting slow, man, he's come on big. He's had some big games these last few weeks. He just can't seem to get the win.
Well, you know how I brought up the luck rating with the Chiefs in the 2 topics ago, how they're the luckiest team in the NFL? The Bengals are the most unlucky team in the NFL. They have the lowest luck rating. They are just, it's incredibly frustrating to watch because Joe Burrow is literally doing something that is a feat amongst only Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So, this was a little stat. I wish Jacob K on X, he basically compiled this list. Through the first 11 games, the Bengals are 4-7. Joe Burrow has 3,028 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, and only 4 picks. The only players to achieve 3,000 plus passing yards, 27 plus touchdowns, or 4 or fewer interceptions through the first 11 games and how their team's season ended. Tom Brady in 2007 and 2015, 16-0 and 13-3. Aaron Rodgers twice, 2011 and 2020. His record was 15-1 and 13-3 respectively. Mahomes in 2020, they ended 14-2, and Drew Brees in 2018, his Saints went 13-3. Joe Burrow sitting here with his team being 4-7. Their defense can't step up. It did okay in portions of this game, but overall, it was just not a good game for the Bengals defense again. Is this a bigger sign that the Chargers are a legitimate NFL team? Maybe. But we've sort of seen where the Chargers can slip up, like in this game. You're up, 24-6 entering the second half, and all of a sudden Joe Burrow pops off for three touchdowns, and they're back in the game with opportunities to go out and win this game. I think that, there's the term chargering. We saw that with Brandon Staley. They go up big. Just go look at the playoff game they had against the Jaguars. You're up, 24-0, 27-3, something like that, and all of a sudden you lose. It was very reminiscent of this game, except in the Jaguars' case, they were able to close it out. The Bengals' case, they weren't. Joe Burrow, by the way, and this team is falling apart. Joe Burrow looks depressed after the loss. Jamar Chase is upset. This is a soundbite in the locker room of Jamar Chase basically being asked, how come you guys can't finish? Is there anything that you could do to have this team finish better? This was his response. Take a listen. It's pretty brutal.
I don't know, man. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know why we're not finishing. I don't know what we're doing to give ourselves an advantage to finish. I don't know.
What do you do?
How do I do it? I don't know. Ask Zach. Ask the coaches. Don't ask me. That's not my job.
To finish?
I play football on the field. I don't call plays for us, so I can't really do nothing.
And that's true. He doesn't call plays. He's literally a top receiver. I'm pretty sure he's still number one in receiving yards. They have, I think, the number one sack leader still. Like, there's pieces here. And by the way, it's crazy to think that all the top playmakers minus Joe Burrow, Trey Hendrickson, and Jamar Chase are both frustrated with their contract situations and are looking to get paid. It's crazy to believe. Your best players should get paid. When you don't, look what happens.
That was going to be my point. You mentioned it last week. Bengals have to pay their players. You can't lose those guys. They got some pieces there that they can build around if they could get the defense to play a little bit better, and they'd be right back in there competing for the Super Bowl. I mean, they beat the Chiefs to get to the Super Bowl. They lost on kind of a tough play in the Super Bowl, so they were right there. And last year Burrow was hurt. He's back now, and man, he looks like the best quarterback in the NFL right now. I think it's really terrible that the rest of the team can't step up and get them back in winning ways. And I think Jamar Chase, I give him a lot of credit to go out there and play all year when he's upset about his contract, and rightfully so. I mean, the guy is 4 years in a row over 1,000 yards. Only 6 players have done that in NFL history. And so, you got to hang on to that guy. He'll be happy to go into free agency now, particularly the way this season's turning out for the Bengals. This is not the kind of situation he wants to be in.
Well, I'm looking at the schedule here. There is swaths of maybe breathing a sigh of relief, but coming out of the bye and to finish the year, you face the Steelers. You're on a bye right now, but coming out of the bye, you're up against the Steelers who have a great defense. Your offensive line is suspect, and your defense can't stop anybody. But then finally, you could beat the crap out of the Cowboys, which is Week 14. Week 15, you play at Tennessee. Then Week 16, you're home against the Browns. And then Week 17, which again, who knows, maybe this quarterback is still being tremendous. You're at home against the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix is having a tremendous year. And then you finish out your season, like I mentioned, at Steelers. They're not going to make the playoffs this year. I had them making it to the Super Bowl, and if you just look at the top performers on the team, they're number one in every category, receiving, passing, and sacks. It's just the rest of the team can't hold up. So I'm still saying I had a good shot at being right, because everybody who should have been great performers are great performers. Just the rest of the team is falling apart. I put that at the hands of Zach Taylor, 100%. This coach has been, questionable for years. People are questioning whether or not he deserves to still be the coach of the Bengals. And I think with the way that this season's panning out, the defense can't get right. Your offensive line is questionable. Your running back is okay, but not great. I like Chase Brown. He's okay. He's doing pretty good, but not great. If Jamar Chase is out, there's an issue there. T. Higgins is back. I felt like Joe Burrow was a little bit more comfortable in the pocket. But the defense is just so abysmal that something needs to change. And the first thing I would do is give Trey Hendrickson his contract. Actually, the first thing I would do is give Jamar Chase his contract and then give Trey Hendrickson his contract. Both those players need to get paid. And T. Higgins, he's probably gone. But pay your players. The Bengals are a cheap franchise. And if they want to keep wasting away Joe Burrow's career here, because I think that's what they're doing when your quarterback is playing this high of a level and you're 4-7. You got to do something. Could it be the head coach? Maybe. Could it be defensive coordinator? Probably.
Maybe. That's more likely.
Will you finally spend money and get good players, whether it be in the draft or whether it be in through free agency?
They should be able to do that. You should.
Yeah, you should. But it's sad to see that this team is playing this well. The top performers are playing this well, and they're 4-7. But I give a bunch of props to the Los Angeles Chargers. It is about time the Chargers, with this level of talent and that level of quarterback, are living up to their name. The defense is probably the best in the NFL. They was it the first time they've, like I said, this is the first team that has broken the 20-point threshold against the Chargers. Justin Herbert's having a tremendous season. J.K. Dobbins is having a great year. Quentin Johnston is finally not being labeled a bust. He's had a couple of very nice catches. Jim Harbaugh has done a tremendous job coaching. The Chargers are living up to what we thought they were when they were constructing this team. It's great to see them finally come through. So, full props to the Chargers. Right now, they are 7-3, facing the Ravens next week. Actually, this week. They play them on Monday Night Football, so that'll be a nice conversation on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun to watch that.
I just think Zach Taylor, a lot goes on him. They start out so slow during the season. That's on the coaching staff.
I agree.
You got to have them ready to play. They got to get out there and win, at least go 1-1 in the first 2 games. I think that's the downfall of the Bengals is just starting so slow the past 3 years. They really, I think that puts them in a hole, and they have a very hard time getting out of it.
Well, I want to preface this. They always lose game 1. It's always something that they do. They don't do well in the first game of the season. The second game, they lost on a 4th down penalty against the Chiefs. They lost by 1 point. They should have won the game. Then we go to the Commanders. That was a 1-score game. The Panthers, they beat by 10. The Ravens, they lost to by 3 on a rookie punter botching a snap and then giving up a 50-plus yard run to Derrick Henry to set the game-winning field goal. You beat the Giants. You beat the Browns. You got blown out by the Eagles. That was a bad game. You crushed the Raiders. You lose by 1 point to the Baltimore Ravens. 1 point. And in this game, you lose late. You can't score. Everything just falls apart at that point. You can't stop J.K.
Could have
Dobbins.
won the game on that field goal. That could have been the game winner.
Yeah, no, because Evan
51 yards.
McPherson missed the field goal. That would have put him up by 3. The Chargers.
He's had a tough season, man. He could have won several games for them.
I watched almost every single game this week. The amount of kickers missing kicks, it's bad. Browns had an issue kicking the football. Ravens had an issue. Bengals had an issue. Brandon Aubrey missed his first kick in the Dallas Stadium. A bunch of kickers missing kicks.
Yeah.
Justin Tucker has like a 78
not Boswell.
percentage. Yeah, not Boswell. He's having a tremendous year. Went 6 for 6 this past week.
Yeah, I think 3 of them were over 50 yards.
He's a tremendous kicker. Again, Brandon Aubrey should have had a 64-yarder. Mike McCarthy is an idiot. So, what are you going to do? All right, I believe that wraps up for today's show. We thank you for the constant support. I apologize for the technical difficulties. But Friday, I'm going to bring back the top 10 teams. I think it's time to update it. Last time I did this was entering Week 9. It's time to update it entering Week 12. People, you know what? My list should be less disagreed upon amongst Chiefs fans and Ravens fans.
Well, if you're going to do the top 10 teams, I'm going to do my top 10 quarterbacks.
Do you want to give a top 10 QB list? Go right ahead. So, Friday, look for top 10 quarterbacks entering Week 12. Look for top 10 teams entering Week 12. We'll do that as well as covering everything around Week 12. We could potentially see Doug Peterson be fired in the next couple days. The Jaguars are on a bye week this week. It's not looking pretty. They do have the number 1 overall pick as of today, but we will wait and see for that news if it does break. Also, Matt Eberflus, after the loss against that was a bad, we didn't talk about it, but he gave the same excuse that he gave in the loss against the Commanders. I didn't think getting closer was going to be an issue. He said that against the Commanders, they ended up, scoring the Hail Mary, and then they kicked the field goal on, I think, 3rd down because he didn't think it mattered if his kicker had a shorter kick. Are you kidding? Like that, the reasoning makes no sense whatsoever. But yeah, coach firings may happen very, very soon. We may see 2 in one singular week. Who knows? But yeah, Friday, Week 12. Doing a bunch of things on Week 12 on Friday, so stay tuned. Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Hey, Grandpa.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift